This is it, you guys. The joy of creating art is partially by being able to hold it. It's not to measure it. This is my swatch corner, which I never thought I'd ever say. Are you cozy? Hello. The other day, one of my fan patrons on Patreon asked me this question. Why do you choose to draw using traditional tools like a lightbox, Bristol, etc., instead of doing everything in Clip Studio? I answered that I simply like to draw by hand. I'm used to it. A line drawn by hand for me is going to come out more accurate than a line drawn on a tablet. In some cases, that is actually a detriment because in certain creative industries, you're expected to draw everything digitally, especially in like animation. The turnaround for artwork is so fast that there's no time to draw things by hand, scan them, and then edit them on the computer. No, it's all directly digital. Luckily, I don't work in animation. I can do whatever I want. But this question lingered in my head because I still kept thinking about why am I recently picking up more traditional mediums? Lately, I've been working with colored pencils. Just a couple months ago, I started using alcohol markers. Granted, this is thanks to wonderful collaborations with Arrtx and other art supply companies, but I'm on a traditional kick. But I think I'm going through something that I believe a lot of other creative people are going through, and that is AI slop fatigue. With the rise of generative AI, we are all collectively getting angrier and disillusioned with art in general. And we look back at the period before 2022 or 2023 kind of nostalgically when Pinterest wasn't full of AI crap and we didn't have to question whether every illustration that we see either in freaking fashion magazines or in even art competitions, we wouldn't have to question if those were made by humans. And speaking as somebody who has freelanced as an illustrator, if I decided to go back to freelancing like the way I used to do before the pandemic, wouldn't be able to do that. There really aren't any jobs like that anymore, which sounds crazy, but that is where we're at. It's pretty bleak. But I didn't turn on the vlogging camera to yap about something that you are well aware of as well. I came here to remind y'all that there is a way to go against this. There's a way to feel more in control. There's a way to counter this anti-art wave. And it's this. It's going traditional. Picking up a pen and paper, you guys. AI can't do that. That's the last itty bitty corner that we as artists have. So I'm finding myself reaching out to it, owning it, and kicking ass with it. So I think if you're feeling that way too, maybe you should consider picking up that old sketchbook of yours that's been collecting dust in your drawers, picking up those old colored pencils, or trying out those crappy markers. All of that to feel back in control of our ability to create without our work being devalued, stolen, and questioned. In the year of 2025, if you post a digital art piece, you might be questioned on its authenticity. Which is a really crappy feeling, but that's the reality that we are living in. So for this art vlog, I'm going to continue to explore traditional mediums. If you've seen my other recent vlogs, I've explored alcohol markers and colored pencils. I will continue that journey in this video. So as you might know, I've been trying to finish this art study sketchbook for the past couple of weeks. In doing so, I've used a bunch of traditional art supplies, and I've worked in a bunch of different places like my grandma's house, the living room table. All of that movement and using supplies, it made me realize like I don't actually have a designated space in this room where I can sit down and play around with these items. Like, yes, I have room on my computer desk to do this type of work, but it would require me to set up and then break it all down every time I would have a session. If you're like me, I need pure convenience, smooth workflows. I cannot have interruptions, otherwise I'm not going to do it. That's just how I work. That's why I got myself a drawing desk where I could start a drawing session and end it almost immediately. There's no setup of this paperwork, tilting the desk up, none of that. It's ready to go. And ever since I got this drawing desk, I've drawn so much. I mean, you can tell from my vlogs just how often I draw. Working on this made me realize I need an art desk, just a general art desk where I can use my watercolors, do my inkings, use all of these supplies without having to worry about using that space for other things. So, its own designated space. I already have 2 desks. Is it really that crazy to have a 3rd desk? I did think about it. It felt very silly. I have seen recent artists have like 3 desks. It's not that crazy. And for that specific reason, 1 for drawing, 1 for computer work, and 1 for miscellaneous art stuff. Like, it is a thing that artists do. So I did give myself permission to get a 3rd desk.
Oh, good desk. How's it fit?
Wow, fits perfect. Still have room to put the beanbag.
Put it right there with that wall.
Yeah, I just put it there and it fits.
Yeah, that's perfect.
It looks great. I've got all of my inks and I'm trying to figure out where to put them. They do have to be someplace where I can easily retrieve them. I'm thinking right there. That was my fountain pen ink stash, but here I have actual art ink bottles. I have to figure out where to put those too. In my last vlog, you saw me use these 2. I really like them in the box, so I haven't pulled them out. Eventually I'm gonna have to pull them out just because it looks a little silly to keep them in the box. But Ferris Wheel Press, they know how to make things look good, man. The rest of the corner where I had my inks, these are pen nibs. Gotta figure out where to put that. And then these are extra Apple pen nibs. Isn't that cute? I think those can stay here because I don't use them very often and they work as decoration. These are all black markers that I've collected throughout the years. Just people giving them away. And I'm hoarding them, but if I keep them in a bag, I'm never gonna use them. So it'll be nice to move them somewhere where I can visibly see them at all times. Therefore, I will reach out to them more easily. I've had this green basket almost 20 years. I don't really even remember where I got it. I think it's something that I found at a apartment lobby. If you're wondering what that M is, the Met Museum used to give these away when you would enter. It would be like your ticket when you went in. They don't do those anymore, I don't think. But if I want to pull this up, in and out, this is definitely giving me issues. This. Wondering if there's maybe like something I can tape at the bottom so it doesn't get caught. This is a brush cleaner. I'm going to put it with all of my painting supplies. So I have here all of my watercolors, gouache. I even have pastels. I probably shouldn't have them in here because if they're going to be moving around, the dust is going to get in there. So I'll remove that. I have watercolor pencils. A lot of these supplies I've gotten for free, just people giving them away. This I grabbed from an old coworker. They are iridescent watercolors. And then this is my pride and joy, Holbein watercolors that I've put into this case. And in fact, I have a lot more colors than what this case can contain. That was a birthday gift from the husband. So those are actually nice watercolors. And I have these like neon watercolors that I saw Little Thunder using, and I haven't really been able to play with these very much, so. But now that there's this little space, I can actually do that. Ideally, I want to keep this desk clear. So I would like to have either a shelf here or one of those pegboards where I can hang little shelves and store my pens. For now, this is my water container, pens, and then I have an electric sharpener that I got at a thrift store for $1. This is pretty bare right now. So maybe it would be nice to put up some inspiring artwork, especially this one since it is made with watercolors. It would be nice to look at while I'm working. Well, it's getting late. I should start getting ready for bed. I'll give you a tour later. I can tell someone likes it. And you can't see me. Okay, so this desk exists. What do I do now? Arrtx recently sent me their pastel alcohol markers. Yes, the pastel markers that I had said in my alcohol marker video that would have been my next thing that I was eyeing in terms of supplies. Arrtx is really good. I'm definitely thinking about getting more colors. And so here we are. The pastel collection of alcohol markers from Arrtx. I guess this will do for now, but I'm very excited to try these because I found that the first set that they sent me lacked lighter colors. Obviously, that's why they have this pastel collections. I really want to try them out and see what I can make. I really want to get back to working on my comic since I've been focusing on working on the sketchbook. I would like to do some girl night art. Since they sent me these markers to try out, this is the time to try that. Okay, so just like the 80 set of alcohol markers from Arrtx, I mean, this is their standard set. If you'd like to see what I created with this set, you can check out my first video on the markers, but this is their basic set. If you want to expand the colors, then here is the pastel set. Like I always say about Arrtx products, they really excel in the packaging. Always fun and still practical. The standard set has 80. This has slightly less, 66. But they still have a chisel tip, a brush tip, and they're also designed for blending. My favorite thing about their packaging is the fact that these boxes go like this. What a great way to not only house your markers, but keep them in their box while using them. You want to store them horizontally, so this is perfect. You don't need to be buying any other unnecessary accessories to store your markers. So I do appreciate that about Arrtx. Their packaging is aesthetic, not those ugly black bags. This feels intentional. I can't stop raving about these cool boxes. Now my first impression with the colors, I organized these again. Just like with this set, I reorganized them in a rainbow-like formation that made sense to me. This is a reminder that they're not gonna come in this order. I organized them like that. As far as colors go though, I'm pretty impressed that they give you so many pastel colors. I feel like a pastel collection, a company could get away with just half of this amount and call it there, but this is a lot. In my last alcohol marker video, I learned the importance of swatching your colors. You really want to know what these colors look like on the paper that you are choosing to make illustrations off of. It is important to get a swatch of those pastel colors in the papers that I have that I would be using. I like to swatch them in my Japanese comic paper. This is the paper that I use to draw my actual comics on. So I'm gonna be swatching colors on both of these papers. Arrtx does provide a swatching paper with their products. When I received this box, I filled in all the colors, but this isn't super useful because not only is this not the paper that you're going to be using to make illustrations out of, but if you don't like how these colors are organized like me, reorganizing them, the swatch order is thrown off. So this is nice to get an initial first impression of what these colors look like, but it's not necessarily useful. I woke up at 6 in the morning and got to work on swatches. This is the swatch. See how they match the color order? This is the Strathmore Bristol paper, and then this is the Japanese comic paper. And there are quite some differences, you guys. This clearly shows your choice of paper can affect how the illustration will look like. Right off the bat, you can tell that the Japanese comic paper blends the marker a lot more smoothly than the Strathmore. Now that might not be a bad or good thing. It really depends on your taste. If you would like to see more variation in the saturation of colors, that's totally fine. You'll get more of a watercolor look with the Strathmore. So I'm not saying that one is better than the other. It's just really important to be aware of how these markers are going to interact with paper. The other observation too is that multiple applications of the same marker on the paper would darken the color, but that wasn't the case with the Japanese comic paper. It all came out to be the same color. I mean, there were a few instances where you did get a little bit of a variation, but for the most part, no matter how many times I went over it with the same marker, there really wasn't that much of a difference between applications. So that tells me that if I want to shade, I'm gonna have to use different colors, which I know is a big strength of alcohol markers. Something more to think about. If you're curious about the other markers, yes, I did swatch the other set with this paper too, and I got the same results. This is the Strathmore, and then here's the Japanese comic paper. I did this one first, and on the second one I wanted to see how many times I could go over the marker on the paper to see variations. But I had to do multiple applications of that marker to try to get some kind of darkness out of it. But I got the same results. So here's the pastel collection with the standard collection, and same thing but with the Strathmore Bristol paper. And now the last thing I want to mention about swatching and kind of like the boring part of this video, that I'll be working with an additional paper because surprisingly I also received from Arrtx their sketch marker pads. It comes in a pack of 2. I've never seen this product of theirs. I had to do some research about how am I supposed to use this, because it's not necessarily a sketchbook in the traditional sense of the binding. It really is like a giant notepad. But these were designed specifically for their alcohol markers, so what a neat product. I'm excited to try this paper out as well, so I did swatch it out. Here's the pastel collection. You know how I mentioned how the Japanese comic paper blended out the colors almost uniformly? Well, this sketch marker pad paper, there was absolutely no variation in applications, which tells me that this paper is the most ideal of the 3 papers that I've discussed here for blending. So I did try out some blending here with 3 colors. You can ignore the green. I was just trying out a light yellow, an orange, and a pink, and it's pretty seamless. The only reason you can see some variations here is because I went over it like 50 times. I really wanted to see, okay, how many times do I have to go over it in order to finally see some kind of variation? And yeah, I did start seeing it. It was like pooling and stuff. So, but that was kind of psychotic of me. I just was adding a lot of colors. These green marks came about because I was testing the feathering of this paper. Like when you put the stroke down, how much of the marker is going to spread from the initial area. So I drew a circle and it did pass the test. There was hardly any feathering. You still have to keep in mind that it is going to expand slightly when you apply the marker on the paper, but it wasn't that much. So if you can anticipate how much of it is going to feather, this is doable. So this paper, even though it's quite thin, it's like dangerously thin. It's thinner than computer paper. I did not think it was gonna be this mighty. Like the fact that it's not feathering and it can take a ton of marker paint, like I dumped a lot of ink on this section right here. Yeah, this is a thin but mighty paper. And that's pretty much the point of this marker pad. They designed this specifically for their marker, so I really was expecting for there to not be any issues, and it's nice to see that there aren't any. If you can get over the fact of how thin it is, this will be pretty fun to use. I did swatch the standard set too. Very bright and vibrant, and as you can tell, no variation in the strokes. It all blended really, really seamlessly, like kind of scary seamlessly. I'm gonna have to shade using other colors. I will not be able to shade like with watercolor where you just apply the same color and it'll darken. No, in this case, you are going to have to use other colors to shade. And the main reason this is not considered a sketchbook, it's called a marker pad, is because it's designed to rip the paper out. This is my swatch corner, which I never thought I'd ever say. I'm going to hang all of my swatches on here. There you go. Watercolors, neon watercolors, kuretake, and alcohol markers. Hello, today is Saturday. We ran a few errands, and that included going to Little Tokyo, and we visited the Japanese bookstore called Kinokuniya, which is where I found this amazing coloring book from Witch Hat Atelier. The artwork is beautiful and very inspiring. So I got this coloring book. It was only $16, and I think I'm gonna try out these pastel colors on it just to try it. I'm pretty tired because we stayed up late at a birthday party, so I don't have much in me to do any drawing, but I'm gonna try just a coloring book. I installed my ring light instead over here. I think it makes most sense on this desk. Here's this page. I've been wanting to dissect how Clamp colors hair. Here's one of their illustrations from a manga. I'm trying to identify like how many colors and what's the strategy. So with each strand we have a highlight, which is white, a lighter color and a darker color. And then they're separated by lines. The dark shadow, they use that as a line too. So I'm trying to figure that out. And what better way to really figure it out by actually trying it out. And with the pastel colors, let's see which color we can do. Look how pretty the sky looks. Kind of reminds me of these pastel colors. This was a lot of fun to color. I had to be a little bit more creative about how to shade more brownish soil, because there's no brown, there's only orange. So I added blue to darken it. I did try to shade with just a darker color like Clamp does it, but I guess I don't have a dark enough color for some of these, so I went in with some blue to darken like this yellow area, and even the pink, some of the shadowy areas I layered a purple to darken it. It was very relaxing. I totally get why people buy coloring books just to color. I'm into it. The only thing is, this book is double-sided. You're interested in getting this coloring book? It seems like it's more of a colored pencil situation. I wouldn't try it out with the markers. I'm planning out my next illustration to use these pastel markers. Here are two, Alice and Catherine on top of snow. So here I was trying to figure out what colors to use for the snow, or to illustrate Christos as he's carving one of his figurines in the kitchen. It has some medieval ornamental frames around it. The other idea, which I think I will do first, is Agnes Cooking. This one because I would like to make an illustration using just these colors. It's kind of hard because they really are very pastel, so I feel like this set would be very helpful when you combine it with their standard set. But by themselves, I would have to create like a very girly illustration, and I could, but it would be much more helpful for me to make more girl night art, which is more medieval, rustic, more earthy colors, so this palette doesn't really work with girl night. But I'm gonna try to make it work. So now that I have a few options, it's time to draw. We're gonna move the party to the drawing desk. So let's go there. Okay, let's move my current comic page that I'm working on. Move it out of the way. And since we are just drawing on regular drawing paper, it's a very loud plane. I want to color the illustration on the Arrtx marker pad, but I'm going to draw it on regular paper. I had to look up panels with Agnes just to make sure I don't mess up her features because I haven't drawn her in many months. This is the background design that I'm trying to emulate, so I need to add the circles on the end of those bars. I didn't quite space out the boxes properly in the sense of there's two full ones and then there's a tiny sliver of the next one, so I hope that doesn't bother anyone, that it's not ending perfectly. Here it's also not ending perfectly, so maybe it's not that big of a deal. I'm going to scan this and print it on the Arrtx marker pad. Okay, one thing to definitely keep in mind if you're using this paper is that it's not double-sided. There are two sides, the right side and the wrong side. Luckily, I tested the actual final printout and I did print it on the right side. So one extra layer of complexity in my... But with that mystery solved, I've been trying to figure out the final colors for this illustration, and I gotta say, I can't really do the whole illustration with just these pastel colors. My comic is more on the earthy side, so instead I'm combining both of the sets. And I've been trying to figure out which colors to designate the different sections. Anyways, I think I've figured out most of the colors, so it's time to dive in. And as always, I am nervous as hell. I'm going to use the 0 marker to blend the end of the fingers. Two different colors, it's not so harsh. I mean, look at my fingers. Red to yellow. It's a gradual change. Also, why are my hands so damn red? What the hell? It seems like I overcolored onto the sleeve. So I'm also going to use the 0 to try to blend out that beige out of the sleeve. I've been using these two beiges from the pastel set. Alright, I'm just trying to figure out what direction to do the swiping. And on top of that, I don't want to smear the line art. We got a little bit of a smear right here. But I think we're done with the skin. Second hardest part is going to be that dress. For the dress, I'm thinking 416, which is this one. Alright, here goes nothing. trying to think, maybe 135 for some of the blending out stuff. Screw it, I'll just go all the way to the edge. What I should have done is added the shinier area on this boob, not just on one boob. I just realized that. That's looking weird. That looks weird. I'm just gonna do the whole shoulder. I'm gonna wait for that to dry. If it still looks patchy like that, then I gotta go over the other side with it. This blue color is not dark enough for it to be a shadow. The tiles aren't green enough, so I'm gonna do one more layer but with another pastel green. This would go a lot faster if I didn't have to be careful about smearing the line art. Yeah, that's the green that I had in mind. It's almost 10 o'clock and I have day job tomorrow, so I definitely gotta go to bed. That was a very interesting experience. A little bit stressful, but honestly, the more I do this, the more I'm gonna be comfortable with. The gist with art supplies is make those mistakes. With experience, you'll know how to work around them, basically. Either by hiding them or putting more color, different techniques that you will pick up by the mistakes that you commit. Like, I committed a bunch of mistakes in this piece. It's nice to know that there is room for error and you still don't destroy the art piece. Hello. It's been several days, if not a week, since I last filmed. I thought I was going to end the vlog with that art piece, but I'm not super impressed by that piece. So instead of ending that vlog, let's add one more art piece. I'm trying to think of the next fun illustration. I don't have it in me to draw a new one. This vlog is already getting too long and I do need to get back to comic drawing. December is about to start and I really wanted to do a comic drawing marathon, so I really can only squeeze one more illustration that's already drawn. So I've been trying to think about what have I already drawn in the past that I can color. So here's an illustration I made last year for, obviously, New Year's. It's Alice in her winter outfit. I'd like to see if I can color that with markers. So I have the Clip Studio Paint file here, so let's remove everything out of this file and just isolate the drawing. Here's the piece isolated. I'm going to print this on regular paper and then I'm going to draw over it with pen and ink. I can't use the printer ink version for markers. There's just too much printer ink. If you're wondering why I don't just draw it straight from the actual drawing, because I actually drew it on my story notebook. So print it is. There we go. So I'll use this to trace. I'm thinking of using a page of the Deleter comic paper to actually try it out. For this drawing, I'm going to try out the Tachikawa nib. I've been using the G pen, which is a standard in manga. This is also a popular nib in manga, and I believe it's slightly finer in line width than the standard G pen. I haven't drawn with this nib, so I wanted to try it out. As for the ink, I'm going to use Copper Carnival again from Ferris Wheel Press. I used it in this piece, which I made in my last vlog, so if you'd like to see how I created this, definitely check out my last vlog. The reason why I'd like to use this one is because it's a very warm brown and it has a beautiful gold shimmer. You can see it right there. So I'm excited to try it out again. Back when I ordered these calligraphy inks for making art, I also ordered this really cool thing from Ferris Wheel Press. It's the carousel, and this will work well with shimmery inks like this, where the shimmer tends to collect at the bottom, so when you dip your pen, it's pretty hard to reach the shimmer. So that's why they created this thing. So I'll show you how it works. Wow, I've been waiting to open this with you guys. Look at that. Even the box is so pretty. I don't want to get rid of it. It's just this little thing. But what's cool about it is the lid becomes the spinning base. So you can spin it and get the shimmer mixed into the ink. So here it is. You can see that shimmer swimming around. I used my loyalty points to buy this, so if it's just a gimmick and it doesn't work, I don't care. It's really cute. And now, time for the hard part. It might be a bad idea that I am inking this directly on the light box, but like I said, I don't have a lot of time, so I'm just gonna go for it. If I mess it up, I give up. I'm really liking drawing with this nib. Just the right size that I seem to be comfortable drawing with. Maybe the G pen was a little too thick for my taste. I guess it kind of reminds me of the mechanical pencil size that I usually draw in, which is 0.7. This is drawn. Look at the beautiful shimmer from that. So pretty. Good morning. It's the next day. It's 7 a.m. I'm very sleepy, but I would like to get this done before tomorrow because tomorrow I have day job, so I only have today. I'm still figuring out the color combination plan. I know I'm gonna use these colors. Still working it out. Okay, I've narrowed down the colors. It's a mix of both of the sets. I've got tea ready. We can start. Two greens here, these two. One of them is supposed to be a shadow and you can barely tell, so I'm gonna go for number 46, which is this one. Let's hope it shades enough. Okay, so I tried to blend the dark with the lighter green and all it did was create this little white pool. I don't think I've grasped how to use the 0 marker yet. I'm going to try to recreate that. I'll just do the red and then do the gold. I want more details on the embroidery, so I have the gold colored pencil from Arrtx. I did test it out here, and it has a little bit of a gold sheen. Okay, ignore the gardener, but really quickly, I'm almost done. I completely forgot that I had some blue shimmer Ferris Wheel Press inks. So I'm gonna try to put that on there and see if we can get some shimmer. And there's our shimmery blue. We don't have to talk about the back, but no buckling, no feathering. What a nice little discovery. And here's the bottle. See the shimmer? I got this years ago. It's really nice to be able to use my supplies. And now for the last touch, the gold paint. This is the Kuretake set. This is the swatch for it, so these are all the colors. We're gonna use this gold. Okay, the border, I don't know how I managed to do it. It's a little wonky, but because this is supposed to mimic a medieval manuscript, like it's clearly handmade, we gotta embrace the unevenness. I'm gonna draw the rest of this piece with the colored pencil. And here's the final result. I'm not sure how I feel about the white dots. Still thinking about that. So here's what I made for this vlog. It was a lot of fun playing with these pastel markers and miscellaneous other materials. I'm really enjoying making art for the sake of making art. It's a really fun way to get comfortable with the art materials that I have. So any chance I get to practice while also making artwork that I can actually look at and measure just my progress, as well as just seeing different versions of it. I mean, here is what these both look like, depending on the medium. My conclusion with having created these two illustrations, it seems like the more I do them with low expectations, the easier it gets. If you're really scared to create bad art with your materials, this is definitely a reminder to enjoy the process. I cannot tell you how nice it feels to just hold something, put it on paper, and create anything. This sample paper that I was just trying out different colors, I made that just playing around. It's terrible. Objectively a bad piece of art, but do you know how nice it is to hold a physical manifestation of something that you created? This is it, you guys. The joy of creating art is partially by being able to hold it. It's not to measure it. So yeah, I made an ugly doodle, but it's my ugly doodle and I get to hold it here. And it's really nice to know that I created it from these hands. I want to thank Arrtx for sending me their pastel alcohol markers. I really liked integrating them with my whole other supply set. I'm going to be keeping it right here so they're easy to grab. I'm excited to get a pegboard eventually to be able to hang other supplies. There's no rush though, because I really do gotta get back to drawing more comic pages for girl night. So for those who are part of my Patreon, which is just $1 a month, you'll suddenly be seeing a lot of new comic pages being drawn in this coming month of December. We're almost at the end of 2025. Make sure you're subscribed to my channel. Give this video a like. If you even feel like it, leave a comment down below, maybe an emoji or something for the algo, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye!